What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Litecoin today. The purpose of this video is to give an accurate long-term expectation by the end of the cycle where we could see Litecoin going, how high it could go. If that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get into it, okay? To do this, we're going to use a few different charts. We're going to use the Litecoin chart, the Bitcoin chart, and then Litecoin versus Bitcoin as well. But I want to start off with the LTCUSD chart and just kind of explain where we are here. So, in our earliest days, we had a very massive accumulating triangle here, right? Ascending triangle. And whenever we broke out, the breakout was massive. It was great. It was courageous, to say the least. Okay. We've got a very nice, well-pronounced ascending triangle here, right? Higher lows here, flat top there. We've got an ascending triangle here as well. I would assume that when, not if, but when we break out of this, it'll also be spectacular. Okay. I don't think this is it for Litecoin. I don't think this is the death of Litecoin. I mean, I'll tell you what. If we break this trend line, if we were to see prices that are below August of last year's lows, yeah, that would be the death of Litecoin. But this wick, this scam wick, I'm not worried about it. It doesn't matter. I think that really we're at the base of a range of which we're going to expand from, and we're likely going to, on this next attempt, break out of this overall zone that we've been in since 2017. So, with a breakout from something this massive, from multiple cycles, basically 2/3 of your life or 3/4 of your life here, with a breakout like this, you'd expect to see some kind of fantastic movement, right? From a high to a low, from the all-time high back in 2018, actually. No, it is 2017, December 2017. High to low. I forgot Litecoin topped off with Bitcoin. Most coins topped off a month later. High to low, the minimum expectation would be an $805 price, right? That's the first target we have. But again, thinking about this a little bit more, this is a multi-cycle, like 3/4, if not 2/3 of your life phase that you've been in. Are you going to stop? You're going to break out and stop right at the first target, and that's the end of the cycle, and that's it, and then you're going to consolidate again? It doesn't sound right to me, right? A lot of doubt, a lot of hate, a lot of shade thrown at Litecoin throughout this time. You're going to prove people wrong, and you're just going to get that. You're going to get this much of a move between your all-time high and your new high. I have a hard time wrapping my head around that. So I don't think that's where you're going to go. And we'll apply math and logic to this as well, besides just my own personal feelings. But looking at this here, I think the golden ratio is a very suitable target. $2,100 seems very suitable to me. Now that makes a little bit more sense. It's the golden ratio. You've been consolidating for a long time. You're going to get a massive move, maybe April, May, June, somewhere in this kind of time frame. I could see it happening, right? We've moved at this pace before. We've seen this kind of pace happen before. We've seen it happen back here, and it was peak bull market behavior. We even saw this pace maintain for a few months last cycle. It just didn't maintain for the whole 6 months there. But this first like couple of months here, we saw this pace, like half this move's worth, basically happen. And last cycle was pretty weak. I could very well see us stopping by the end of this bull market at $2,100 or somewhere around there. Okay, that's a good target to have. Can we go higher is the question. And I'm really wondering here. Litecoin's got me wondering a few different things. One, is it possible? Is it even actually possible to go above $2,000 this cycle? We've talked about $4,000, $6,000. We've even entertained the idea of $14,000 by the end of the cycle, although we know that that's very unlikely to happen. That's kind of moon boyish, right? Even 6,000 to 4,000 is moon boyish, right? 2,000 I feel like makes sense, but can we make sense out of these targets? Because if we look back here, we look at what we've done before. Okay, this was the most impressive move of Litecoin's history. Right here, it was the most impressive move. And if we compare that to where we are now at the current price, to see something that's at a $4,000 to $6,000 price, that would more or less mean that we'd have to move at this pace, and we'd still be there as early as June, right? I don't know if the cycle continues into June. So I'm having a harder time seeing these targets than normal. I have a feeling that once we do the LTCBTC stuff, it might make more sense at this target. But Litecoin might be expressing here one of two things. Either one, we're not going to see this target area, or two, perhaps the cycle lasts longer than we had originally anticipated. Perhaps it does. And already we thought that, for most of the cycle, dating back to 2023, in the very beginning of 2023, we thought this bull market would end this month, October of 2025. We thought this would be the month, the end of, and I have probably a lot of long-term videos that make that exact claim. But a few months ago, I want to say it was August or maybe July, we accepted that The timing's off. The cycle's been a bit different, and we think that it's going to be Q2 of 2026. Could we be wrong again? Could it be a later time frame? Maybe. Maybe it's Q3. Maybe we go to Q4. Maybe we do go a whole nother year of bull market. I don't know. We haven't had much of one yet. You know what I mean? And even last cycle, whenever it was weak, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months of consecutive growth. Here we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months of growth that was more or less consecutive. If you're in my camp of belief that April, May will be the high, that means we have November, December, January, February, March, April, May. That's 7 months. That's a lot less than either of these other ones, right? But maybe it will be less. You know, time will tell. But I'm having a hard time because moving up here without a lot of time would then mean that we have to move at a faster pace than we did here, which is possible. Crazy, but possible. Let's just see actually from a low to a high right there, just in this 4-month span. I mean, I feel like it's perfect. That $2,100 area. Anyways, I want to look at the LTC Bitcoin chart, and I just wanted to explain here where our potential target areas are first before we get into that, okay? And why I think they make sense. Why some targets don't make sense, right? Some targets might not make sense, and why some targets might make sense, all right? And what we have to see from that, what it means to get that kind of momentum being built, okay? So looking at LTCBTC, with this momentous occasion of breaking out of a range that we haven't seen, that we haven't been outside of since 2017 in multiple cycles, I would assume that LTCBTC also gets a move that you haven't seen in a couple cycles, right? Back here in 2017, we had some growth like this. We haven't seen growth like that since then. I'm assuming that we'll get a move that is very similar to this. It could be a little bit less. It could be a little bit more. It's hard to say, right? We don't have a whole lot of experience in booming versus Bitcoin, but in this last motion right here, you know, from a low to a high, it's actually pretty close to this one. This one's a little bit bigger. From a low to a high over here, that's pretty close as well. I think this is a good rough estimate. In fact, it's a little bit larger than both of these other two. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take the smallest one. Let's just take the smallest one, low to high, and we'll use that low to high here. Put you at the actual low. Which one's the smallest one? This one is the smallest one. Okay, so let's be conservative. Litecoin has not broken out of this range in a while. When it does, it's, I think, safe to assume that LTC versus BTC will see growth at a rate that it hasn't seen since back here. Okay, because we really haven't seen much growth versus Bitcoin. It's just been decaying. So from the current level, and let's actually put it at the low, not the Scamwick low, but let's put it at this low, which I think is acceptable. Then we could see Litecoin all the way up at 0.0438 of a Bitcoin. Is that possible? Let's just see. Does that make sense? Prior areas of resistance here, prior support zone there. Yeah, it kind of makes sense, roughly speaking. I don't want to use the Scamwick low. Good. Okay, so none of those prices are there. I want to use this low here, right there at the 0.5. So what I'm getting here is we could stop at the 0.5. That makes a lot of sense, right? It's not the most common area, but a lot of cryptos have respected their 0.5, to be fair. We take a high to a low back here. We stopped at our golden ratio zone, literally right at the golden ratio. It was perfect, right at the golden ratio there, actually. So perhaps we go to the golden ratio, right? 0.5 from our most conservative measurement of what we've seen when we've expanded versus Bitcoin, okay, in history. And I'm assuming that we're going to get a similar kind of result because, again, we're breaking out of a historical. We haven't broken out of it yet, we're assuming here, but if we do break out of this, we likely get something that is akin to this, one of these movements back here. And that lines up, coincidentally, with a somewhat significant fib level at the 0.5. And to be completely fair, let me correct myself. The 0.5 is actually not a fib. It's just a zone that we put on the fib, but it still is an area that we find respect on sometimes. Now let's pretend that we're wrong. Maybe we fall short of this expectation, right? Perhaps we fall short of that expectation. Maybe we're wrong and we exceed that expectation. We have fibs on both sides of the line, right? The 382 and the golden ratio. So we delete the fibs, and we can see here the 382 makes a lot of sense because you have prior support, prior resistance, support in here. And the golden ratio makes a lot of sense. Resistance, resistance, support, support, support right there as well. So anything and everything, I think, between these targets is what would make the most sense for Litecoin versus Bitcoin to do by the end of the cycle, right? Again, basing it off of prior moves that we've seen before, we took the most conservative move. That would take us right here. Or no, I'm sorry. That would take us right here. So if we were to see an even more conservative move than the most conservative expansion we've seen versus Bitcoin, that would be here. So I think we're being fair to the conservative effort. We're also being fair to the potentially not bullish enough effort right there. And then the logical kind of in between there. So let's input all these numbers in our Google calculator. What happened? Where did it go? Hold on. Google calculator. Man, they're making such a big deal out of CZ. Do you guys notice? Hold on. Let's just let me whole different thing here, just to show how the media is not on your side. They don't care. They're on their own side, their own agendas, and they're pushing whatever they can to support that agenda. Right? Look at this. Trump pardons convicted Binance founder Champagne Zhao. Whenever Hunter Biden was pardoned, and I'm not trying to get Biden versus Trump. Who cares? I'm stating the facts here. Okay. When Biden got pardoned his son, the news articles read Hunter Biden pardoned, but this says Trump pardons convicted Binance founder. Pardons convicted. Anybody who gets a pardon, first off, they have been convicted, right? It's kind of redundant to say that, but they say Trump pardons. They didn't say Biden pardons his son. Biden pardons his convicted drug addict son, from nothing like that. Biden did not pardon his son. It was the auto pen who pardoned his son, right? Nothing like that. His convicted son. It's just Hunter Biden pardoned was the news articles. This says Trump pardons. It's just it's so one-sided, the media, man. It's tiring. Even if I didn't like Trump, even if I wasn't a voter of Trump, and I am, I would be like, what's going on here, guys? Like, why are you doing this? It's like, even if I was on the other side of things, and I was at one point, I used to be left, man. I used to be very, very left. And at one point I was just like, what are you guys doing? Like, you're literally, I appreciate the combativeness. I appreciate it. It's good to stick to your guns, but whenever you're warping reality intentionally, it's shady, right? The people that do that have not historically been good people, right? Anyways, and I'm not saying that means that the left is good or that the right is good. I'm just talking about the media specifically. I think we can all agree, left or right, that the media is warping, and they intentionally do it. They intentionally warp perspectives for engagement. Maybe it's to push an agenda. Maybe it's to remain relevant and get some engagement. Maybe it's a mix of both. But it's not to help you. It's not to provide accurate, honest information. That's for sure. Anyways, we're not here to talk about that. LTCBTC 0.00284 minimum. 0.00284 minimum. We multiply that by the perceived outcome of Bitcoin. Who knows where Bitcoin's going to be by the end of the cycle? I just strongly, strongly believe, and I don't want to get into too much analysis here because we've already spent so much time. I strongly do believe that Bitcoin will be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars by the end of the cycle. I believe that we will be worth $500,000 by the end of the cycle. Let's say I'm wrong and that we're somewhere between here, between 260 and 300,000, because we're definitely not stopping at 173. We're definitely going to be worth multiple hundreds of thousands by the end of the cycle. So let's go between 260 and 310. Go ahead, put us at what, 280? Is that right? 285, whatever. Let's do 285,000. Let's multiply this by 285,000. I don't think that we're going to stop here, but again, taking the conservative approach, the most conservative, in my opinion, number that I could come up with Bitcoin by the end of the cycle versus the most conservative outcome we could come up with LTC to BTC. This would be the most conservative move that we've ever seen when it comes to an expansion phase versus Litecoin and BTC in its life. Hold on, my computer just threw a fit. Fix it here. Let me delete all these. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. What's going on? I'm trying here, you guys. Okay, there we go. That was weird. This would be more conservative. This moment here would be more conservative than anything else. Sorry, I got distracted there. And inputting that number, that gives us an $809 price. So on the bright side, you guys, I think we're thinking logically here, because the most conservative target that we could come up with that made any kind of logical sense at all lines up with our most conservative target here that makes any logical sense at all. It's at $805. So at least we know we're on the right track. Okay. However, I don't think the Litecoin's going to stop here by the end of the cycle. We already made sense as to why that's not there. And again, this is the low end of the totem pole. Let's ramp it up a little bit, okay? Let's ramp it up a little bit. Let's say Bitcoin goes to 500,000, like I think it's going to. That gives us a $1,420 price. Okay, a little bit more realistic. Okay, and it is right there above the 1414. I'm going to delete this line. We're going to delete all these lines, all these levels, because we have no preconceived notions now, right? We're just talking about where the numbers are. Right above the 1414, okay, it happens. Sometimes you do move right up above the 1414, you stop there, and then that's it, right? I don't think that's what's in store for Litecoin, but okay, I think this is a valid minimum target for the end of the cycle for Litecoin. I really do, right? I suppose the most pessimistic outcome we have is this. Let's chart all of our points here, okay? Now let's move on. So Bitcoin at $500,000 might be there, okay? And maybe Bitcoin goes above $500,000. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. LTCBTC here, and actually, to be completely fair, Bitcoin probably won't be. Damn, it probably won't be at $500,000. It'll probably be like if Bitcoin tops off at 500K, Litecoin probably tops off when Bitcoin's at 480 or 460, 420, something like that. So let's just do 450. That's $1,300, which is still pretty close. Okay. Still pretty close, right? Still right above the 1414. Not bad. Okay, but just I want to be consistent with the ideas here. So moving on, 0.004296. We're not going to round. These are very specific numbers. 4296, right? 004296. That number there, which is our midpoint, which is based off of our 0.5 high to low Fibonacci retracement. It's also based off of our most conservative expansion versus Bitcoin we've ever seen in Litecoin to BTC history. That number multiplied by the same numbers. Let's do 285,000, right? Conservative, then that's $1,200. Okay, so I'm not going to put another line here. I think it's close enough, so that's nice, seeing some congruence there. And then if we were to multiply this by 500,000, not 500,000, I'm sorry, let's do 450,000. Let's assume that Bitcoin's down a little bit after it's high, and that's when Litecoin tops off. That gives us a price of 1,933. Okay, we're getting somewhere. 1933. 1933. Can we all agree that that is very close to our golden ratio? So I think likely we would see the golden ratio. Typically, you don't just stop here. And again, the way we're doing this, there's definitely room for error. Maybe we're off by $100 or $200, and that would make sense that we hit the golden ratio there. It would not make sense that we'd stop at a lower level here. It makes sense that we'd stop at a higher level. So I think the golden ratio is a safe bet there as well. I am going to fudge this. We're just going to line this up here a little bit, okay? Because I think close is close enough, really. Golden ratio, something to be expected there. And that is by using what is a kind of in-between of super bullish and super conservative, right? This is the in-between, using still what I think is relatively conservative kind of thoughts here, right? Now imagine we move all the way up here by the end of the cycle, maybe not February 2027, but May, April 2026. We're in direct line here with these lower highs. We're actually like in a really good kind of line right there with these lower highs. I actually drew a pretty straight line, didn't I? Let's see. It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but something right around there, right? And maybe we do go higher. Maybe these lines aren't perfect. Maybe it's more like this. Who knows? Maybe it's more respected here, something like that, and in which case it is kind of more perfect. I don't know how it lines up, but this is just, again, a rough estimate. And again, we derived that area from the high to low here. That's the golden ratio, which is an area that we found direct resistance, support, even a little bit of support right there, some resistance right there, and support in this area nonetheless. So something there, that's 206831, 206831, 0.006831. Is that what it was? I'm sorry. Yes, that price by the same prices. Let's just use the same arbitrary numbers here. 285,000, right there. 1946. Okay, so now again getting that golden ratio zone, and then we multiply that again. This number now, and again it's stuff like this that I hate to say, but just looking at it here, 450,000. Okay, looking at it here, $3,000. I hate to say it, but I think we're starting to debunk the idea that Litecoin goes to 4,500 or anything like that, right? I'm starting to think that that's what we debunk. Now, how can we make sense out of this target, $3,000? How can we make sense out of this? Well, it's above the golden ratio, which is odd. You wouldn't stop here. And if you did go above the golden ratio, you'd likely stop at 4,500. So something's not right here, right? Maybe if we use last cycle's high instead of 2 cycles ago's high, and then we use this low, look at that, right there at the 1886. We've got a line that lines up right there. It's perfect. So we can make sense out of it using the fibs. So I think any and all of these targets are appropriate. I think a $800 price, again, that was the most conservative, pessimistic we could be, just sounds ridiculous to me. I think 1,300 to 2,300 sounds the most appropriate to me. Most likely, and I think we probably do see this $2,000 price. I highly doubt that we stop lower, but something right there. 3,000 is reaching, right? Now we're reaching. Again, this is kind of unlikely. This is kind of unlikely. This is the most likely zone here. And the only way that we can make sense out of higher prices than that now would be to see prices that are higher than this versus Bitcoin. Litecoin would have to be worth like 1% or more, right? If Litecoin were to be worth $4,500 or $6,300, Litecoin would have to be worth 1% or more of a Bitcoin. And I'm not saying that that can't happen. I'm just saying that we've never seen that kind of expansion versus BTC in Litecoin's history. Okay? We've never seen that kind of like level of expansion. And to do that, I mean, we'd have to just go basically right through our golden ratio all the way up to the 786, 886. Now, the thing is, again, we're breaking out of this massive multi-cycle consolidation phase here, and in which case we could see some spectacular growth at a level that we haven't seen in a very long time. And maybe that growth is enough to see a very large expansion versus BTC. But if I'm just being real and I'm looking at the charts here, I don't know if that happens. I think it would make the most sense actually to stop here. Because again, that's pretty on par with our high points here, right? It's pretty on par. Time will tell. We'll see how it goes. But Litecoin, LTC people, I very much believe that Litecoin has a lot of growth to go. It's here at $96 now. I do think it'll be worth multiple thousands of dollars. But if I had to guess, if I had to give it my best guess and bet money on it myself, I would say that we see about a 22x from here. We probably stop right around $2,000 to $2,200, somewhere in that range. That's my expectation by the end of the cycle, with a true, I think, a true minimum that you can depend on being at about 1,300. I just don't see that. It could happen, but that would largely underperform the average altcoin. I just don't see that happening. Maybe some big things happen, and again, we have months of cycle left that can definitely determine that we're at higher prices. I'll tell you what, if it's the end of December and we're up here at $2,000 or we're at $1,200, the chances of going to 45 to 6,300, they go up a lot. But if it's the end of December and we're not even at $800, it's probabilistic that we do stop at about $2,100 by the end of the cycle. Anyways, guys, I've got nothing else for you. I really do appreciate you all for being here. I just thought that that was important to discuss because I know we've had various targets throughout the cycle, right? For a long time, I did not consider that we'd see prices above 2,100. Then we started getting flirty with this idea. We even got flirty with this idea to some degree. But I think it's just important to be transparent and honest with our expectations. And I think the most logical area that makes the most sense would be the golden ratio zone, simply put. So that's all I got. Hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one, okay? Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.